So I remember getting told my whole life that the best way to get people to like me is to be a nice guy. The secret to being an interesting, intelligent, charming conversationalist is to make it about them. We're going to listen, we're going to ask lots of questions, and we're not going to talk about ourselves too much. And the reason that works is because, first of all, we're talking about things they find interesting, so they're going to like us more. And secondly, there's not loads of pressure on us to be thinking of what to say next. We're letting them lead the conversation, and we're just going to ask them things that they're interested in. So on paper, this is good advice. But in my experience, it is actually the complete opposite, and this advice is bullshit. Following this advice actually makes you come across as boring, a little bit needy, and ultimately quite forgettable. People just won't remember you. So let me just clear this up. There's two problems with relying on asking other people loads of questions as a way of carrying the conversation. So first of all, and honestly this doesn't get talked about enough, with this approach, with asking loads of questions, the whole conversation relies on them being able to like actually answer those conversations, on whether they're like actually an interesting person. And I'm not taking shots at anyone in particular, but like most people just have really bad social skills. Most people absolutely suck at expressing themselves and are just going to give you like one word answers to your questions and absolutely kill the conversation off then and there. And the thing is, we blame ourselves when that happens, when the conversation just stalls because they've given us some like short answer. But like the reality is conversation is two-way and they're not giving us any material to work with. And the second reason is, again, people just don't talk about this enough. It's kind of brutal, but like most people, when they're meeting others for the first time, they're just not that comfortable sharing details about their life. They're not that comfortable opening up. Like, to be 100% honest, asking too many questions in one go, if someone were to do that with me, I think that was a little bit weird or a little bit needy. Maybe that's just a cultural thing because in the UK we are like that. But I would find it a little bit needy. And also it's like the other person isn't actually showing me any of their personality. They're making it all about me and they're sacrificing their own personality. I don't get to see who they are, so that's not going to make me like them more. So yeah, rant over. The reason I'm telling you this is it's not that asking questions themselves is a bad thing. It's just a case of you needing to ask the right questions to get them to open up. So instead of making them like give one word answers and be a bit closed off, there are questions you can ask which will consistently make someone else open up and actually like want to take part in the conversation. So in this video, I'm going to teach you my exact methods for asking the right questions, which are going to make people open up, which will like actually make them want to open up, and is also just going to make you 10 times more fun and interesting to talk to. Like, isn't that what we all want at the end of the day? Just going to explain to you how I reached this conclusion about this specific method just being amazing and anyone can do it easily. But when I was younger, I just used to have this crippling social anxiety. Like, at points during high school, my social anxiety was so bad, I couldn't even leave my bedroom. And when I'd arrive to school in the morning before classes had started, I just lock myself in like a bathroom stall, kind of like in like one of these fucking high school stereotypes you see in the movies, like the kid who fucking hides in the bathroom stall from like all the other kids. That was how fucking bad it was. And I got to university and like really I hadn't actually made that much progress. I was just still really fucking anxious at the thought of any social situation. But I talked about this in my last video. Somehow I fell in with this like fairly popular crowd at university. And they started taking me along to all these parties. Suddenly I was flung into like the world of parties and going out, seeing loads of like hot girls at these parties. And it was like my brain was fucking imploding. Like none of my new friends knew that I was just this anxious, shy kid. I was somehow doing a good job of hiding it. But every single party was just like a mental battle for me to get through. Like, to not just look like this fucking awkward, shy kid the whole time. But yeah, eventually I got to the point where I was like, I can't let this rule me anymore. And a lot of my friends had given me confidence as well, because I'd seen how they just like went and talked to anyone at parties and made it look easy. So I said, I'm just going to try. I'm going to set myself a challenge of speaking to 5 new people at every party without fail. And maybe that will help with my anxiety. Maybe that will like make me a little bit less anxious before these nights out. So this is what I start doing. So upon entering every single party, I'm just ditching my friends. Like, I'm just forcing myself to be social. And obviously I was a little bit drunk at the time as well. But I'm just forcing myself to be social. Speaking to like 5 different people, even if the conversation's only for 2 minutes. 2 minutes, that's still someone done. And eventually this actually started to help. Like, I considered myself a pretty good conversationalist. Didn't experience that much anxiety when talking to new people. Could quite comfortably like go up to strangers and stuff like that and feel okay with it. But the caveat was, where it was all kind of going wrong was after a certain point I thought, you know, I'm good. I'm actually like a pretty social guy now. I'm not that anxious anymore. I finally feel like I fit in with these like popular guys. And I thought that like I didn't need to like learn anymore. Like, I was perfectly good at talking to people. And my approach with speaking to all these new people was to always be a bit of a nice guy. You know, like I was talking about in the intro. It was to just make the entire conversation about the other person. Mainly just asking them loads of questions, trying to find out what they're interested in, and just talking about that. I'm not going to talk about myself too much because, you know, that's selfish. We're just going to make it about them. But eventually something started happening that just made me doubt all of the progress that I've made up to this point. And this was that I'd see the same people at these parties. So one weekend I might have spoken to someone for like 20 minutes, had a big conversation with this new person. Then I see them again at another party, maybe the weekend after. I go and say hi to them, and they just don't even remember who I am. I've been completely wiped from their memory. It's like they had no recollection of ever meeting me. And I'm kind of thinking, what? Like, I spoke to this person for 20 minutes and they don't even have a clue who I am. And this would happen again and again and again. And it was just fucking embarrassing, to be honest. Like, this really, really got to me. And I promise I'm getting to the point here, but I kind of came to this realization after hearing this statement on the internet. I think I seen it on social media or something. And that was that it's not about what you say. It's about how you make the other person feel. And I realized that I'd been going about conversations in the wrong way. Because by making it all about myself, and I realized that I'd been going about conversations in the wrong way. Because I realized by making it all about the other person, which is the advice that you hear in books like How to Win Friends and Influence People, books that everyone reads, by making it all about them, I'm sacrificing my own personality. And conversation just turns into data collection, collecting facts about the other person that I don't even know what to do with. They might not even be particularly interesting to me. And if the conversation's not fun for me, then it's not going to be fun for them. But also there's this idea called the peak end rule, which is all about how people retain information when it comes to like interactions and stuff. So their memory of conversations. So this idea of the peak end rule, it states that people remember the peak of a conversation, as in the emotional high point, when the conversation was the most interesting or the most exciting or the most funny. That's what sticks in people's minds days after the conversation happens. And they also remember the end of a conversation. Like, was it a positive impression at the end or a bad impression? So I kind of realized that all of my conversations felt very, very scripted. It's like every conversation I had, if I were to be honest with myself, was that conversation ever unique to me? What do I mean by that? Every conversation I had, they could have had this conversation with like 10 other people that day. It's the most basic, scripted conversation. No fun for either of us. And I kind of thought to myself, like, the fun for me in conversations, the best conversations I've had, is the spontaneous ones. The ones where, like, you start in one place and you have no idea where it's actually going to end up. But that's part of the fun. It's like unpredictable. There's this kind of emotional spark to the conversation. It's like a fun back and forth where we don't know where this conversation is going to end up. But that part of it is enjoyable for me. So yeah, just to get to the point, I'm going to teach you this exercise in a minute, but asking so many questions, going into interview mode, especially just asking the most basic questions, it's a surefire way to make your conversations feel really scripted. And that's just not fun for either of you. If you know exactly the direction a conversation is going, it's just going to be more of the same generic questions that you can probably guess before you even ask them. Like, what's the point in sticking around? No wonder these people were forgetting me so easily, because there's no emotional spark there. They have no reason to remember me. So this method that I'm going to teach you for asking questions, which results in an emotional spark, which is going to make them like you. It's going to make them open up, and the conversation just flows so much easier. It's an idea called cold reads. And I first learned about this through like watching dating and cold approach YouTubers. And some of these guys would use this method as a way of like making the conversation a bit more fun. You know, there's like that flirty back and forth going on that you'd want with a girl who you just met. You want there to be like that intrigue. You want to like keep them interested. And I find this conversation, this type of asking questions, sorry, I'm tired, it's just really effective just in general conversations as well. But absolutely anyone can do this right now. Like, this takes no skill. This could not be easier. So how do we perform a cold read, and just what exactly is it? So let's create a little scenario here. So basically you need a question. You just need a normal question. So let's imagine that I am at one of these parties and I'm talking to a girl, and I used one of my go-to questions at the time, which was, what course do you study? What's your major, for the Americans out there? And they would give me some like quite basic answer, you know, I study finance or whatever. There's nothing to build from there. It's like I'm just collecting facts. But if I were to change that question into an assumption, an assuming statement. So instead of saying, what do you study? I say, I feel like you study this. I feel like you study psychology because, you know, you kind of seem like you're like psychoanalyzing people. You know, you kind of seem like you understand people, like just by talking to you, I'm getting that vibe. Or I think you're a philosophy major because, you know, you kind of have that energy about you. You know, you're like, you seem to think about things quite deeply. We're just changing the question into a statement, into an assuming statement, but it's having a world of difference. So hopefully I've explained that well. I'll give you more examples. But the reason why this just works so much better, it's so much more like fun and engaging than a typical question. First of all, the difference in their response, massive. When asking a question, we're inevitably leaving ourselves open to the possibility of them just killing the conversation then and there, giving a one-word answer, giving us no material to work with and carry this conversation further. But a cold read draws them out. Even the most closed off person is going to draw them out and start to like open that fun dialogue. You know, because we've created that intrigue, we've opened the door for a deeper response there. They're going to inquire further 9 times out of 10. The second reason it's so much better is because they'll actually want to engage in the conversation. They'll want to know more about like why you think that. So our brains have this natural mix of curiosity, ego, and honestly just like hardwired instincts. We can't help it, but whenever we hear someone like describe us or make an assumption about us, we're never going to miss out on an opportunity to kind of manage how other people see us. So they might get it completely wrong. If that's the case, we're going to correct them. They might get it completely right, and if that's the case, we want them to keep thinking about it. Either way, we're never going to miss out on the opportunity to like manage how other people see us. We're always going to say something. The way the other person has framed this question, not as a question, but as a cold read, we're always going to participate in that. Like, honestly, every time I've tried this, I've never had someone not want to like chip in and explain like whether I got it right or wrong. And whether you get it right or wrong is actually kind of irrelevant, because this is a way of bringing that fun and spontaneity into the conversation. Like, this is the emotional spark I was telling you about. So to give you another example, one of my go-tos during cold approach, which of these do you think sounds more memorable? Where are you from? Or, I feel like you're not from around here originally. You know, you have like a different energy to you. You know, the way you speak is just a little bit different. Which of those is more memorable? It's the cold read. It's not this boring ass question that they probably get asked 10 times a day. It's the assumption. It's your perspective. Instead of this boring data collection exercise, we're drawing them out. We're inviting them to participate through our assumption. And the third reason this is so effective, this is the most important one by far, this is always going to make you more likable. And the reason for that is people like other people who can make them talk about themselves in an interesting way, in a way that makes them seem more interesting to them. Because it's exactly like I told you, most people just absolutely suck at expressing themselves. And at times this is me. Like, when people ask me what I do for work, which is a very general question that you'll hear all the time, I work a job. It's quite hard to explain what I do in an interesting way, in a way that sounds interesting to other people. Like, people ask me that question, and after I've told them what I do, I start thinking to myself, like, damn, do I actually just work a really boring job? Do I just have a boring life? Like, I know that I don't, but the way that I express myself when answering this question, that's kind of what comes into my mind. But with a cold read, we're already doing half the work in making them seem more interesting. You know, we're presenting an assumption about them that like implies there's something interesting going on. If I say, I feel like you do something a little bit creative, you know, for work, I feel like you don't like doing the same thing every day. Like, is that right? Even if I get that completely wrong and actually they do just work the most boring job in the world, that's still an ego boost for them, because I'm implying there is more to them. Like, maybe they have some kind of like hidden layers that other people don't pick up on, but that I've noticed. I'm helping them feel like a little bit more sophisticated. Like, actually there's like more depth to them than most people would realize. And because I'm the person pointing that out, that is validating for them. And they're going to like me more. And it's just so much more effective than questions, because with questions, you're implying that, yes, I'm asking these questions to see if you're actually an interesting person or not. But with cold reads, it's like, okay, I acknowledge you as an interesting person already. Like, I can already see that. Now I'm just kind of like pointing this out to you. So yeah, just to finish up the video, we don't need to spam cold reads. I just do like 1 or 2 at the beginning of a conversation. And that's always going to be enough just to open them up a bit more. Like, most people are just so much more friendly and cheerful after I've gone through the cold reads, because I've made them feel important. I've made them feel validated in a way that's actually like fun and interesting for them, not just ask them all these like boring and generic questions. So yeah, if you want to consistently get the other person to open up, if you want your conversations to be more fun and interesting, and for them to like you more, for you to make a better impression, then start using cold reads. Hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you in the next one.